I, since the Nova days,
Okay.
have been very ingrained in music. So, like, Nova music, 21 years of age, loved it. Started doing Prank Patrol, but, like, was always listening to music. Then after Prank Patrol, I actually hosted a music show for 8 years called The Loop. So that was every single week for Channel 10. We were going to concerts, interviewing artists, working with record labels. So, like, music has been a part of my life. When I'm editing, I'm always listening to new music. So when I moved to Sydney at 23, I moved into a 6-bedroom house. And 2 of the guys that lived in the house worked for Red Bull, and they were like the Red Bull DJs. And this is when Red Bull were throwing like wild parties. They had budgets for partying. They were doing sport, but partying was their thing.
Yeah.
And so just by like association of living in that house, I learned how to DJ with the boys. And then we would throw New Year's Eve parties at our house. We'd throw like just mid-year parties. And so I just loved DJing. Like I was doing it, but never to like perform anywhere or never to do anything with it. When I moved to New York, I started the E-job and COVID hit. And so our studio shut down. New York was in lockdown for like a month. But then the next sort of 2 or 3 months, it started to open up. But all the restaurants and bars were only takeaway only. So they were only doing takeaway cocktails and drinks. And for the first time ever, it was legal in Manhattan to drink on the streets. Normally you can't drink on the streets. But all these bars, their rent wasn't reduced, so they're stinging. They're like, we don't have the tourism. We're losing every month, like thousands of dollars. So me and a Melbourne boy were at a cafe, an Aussie cafe one day, and this guy, an Italian guy called Pietro, who came up and we're like, Pietro, how are you? And he's like, God, I'm and we're like, why? And he's like, I just have no customer. This is my Italian accent, sorry. I'll go back to me. He's like, no customers. And he's like, it just sucks. And so Gus, he was from Melbourne. Gus and I were like, we could probably DJ out the front of your restaurant, of your bar on like Thursday night. And he's like, yeah, cool. So Gus and I, he bought off Amazon these tiny decks. I bought a shitty speaker off Facebook Marketplace for $100. We invited all our friends and we're like, Thursday night, 6 p.m, sundown and drinks and cocktails at Pietro's in Nolita. And we had this massive crew rock up. In the first 20 minutes, we blew the speaker. So my friend had to bring his like home theater system, this Bose like sound bar. It was so funny. But it was a cracking night. He made a load of money and everyone had a good time. So then the next week we're like, let's buy a bigger system. So him and I put in some money and we bought like this like $3,000 decks and like sound system. The day before we're like, Pietro, we good for Thursday? And he's like, oh no, you can't come back. And we're like, what? He goes, you brought too many people. He goes, I'll get shut down. There's like COVID laws. You can't. And we're like, what the hell? So we had these bloody DJ decks. So throughout that whole New York summer, we would just play wherever we could. And I just fell in love with it again. Then I moved to LA. I started playing in my Venice apartment. I threw a party the second week I moved there because I didn't know anyone. So I was like, all right, Aussies, bring all your friends. We'll have a party at my apartment. My apartment overlooked Muscle Beach, or did at the time. And so it was amazing. And my roommate was opening a restaurant and bar in Venice called Market in Venice, which became like the hottest place in town.
Good on you.
So he heard my style of music and he's like, Tweedie, I love your taste of music. Can you DJ at the bar? And I was like, oh, here and there. And I actually just started, I love doing it. So they're 4-hour DJ sets as well, which is like a long time to play. But you get that whole vibe of what people like and don't like. And I just fell in love with it again.